in the vast silence before dawn, when the world holds its breath between night and day, I find myself sitting where countless seekers have sat before me, contemplating a question that has echoed through human consciousness since the first moment awareness turned inward upon itself. The morning mist rises from the valley below, like the very breath of creation, each droplet carrying within it the memory of oceans, clouds, and rain that have danced this eternal cycle for eons beyond counting. Where do we come from, truly? Not the simple answer of biology textbooks or the comfortable certainties of creation myths, but the deeper truth that the Buddha discovered 2,500 years ago beneath the Bodhi tree, when he pierced through the veil of ordinary perception and saw the vast, interconnected web of existence stretching infinitely backward and forward through time. The wind that touches my face now carries the whispered secrets of ancient forests, the sighs of mountains worn smooth by countless seasons, the songs of rivers that have carved their patient paths through stone for millions of years. This same wind once filled the lungs of beings so luminous they needed no sun to see, so subtle they moved through space like thoughts through an open mind. To continue healing your body and soul through these ancient teachings, I invite you to join our path by subscribing to this sanctuary, where we explore together the profound mysteries that connect us to the very source of existence itself. Listen now to a parable the Buddha never spoke, yet one that emerges from the depths of understanding like a lotus rising from the muddy waters of ignorance. There once was a river that forgot it was the ocean. Day after day, it rushed toward the sea, believing itself separate, believing itself small, carrying within its waters the memories of every mountain spring, every raindrop, every tear that had ever fallen. Only when it finally reached its destination did it remember what it had always been, not separate water seeking to join the vast expanse, but the ocean itself, temporarily expressing as a river, playing at forgetting its own infinite nature before remembering once again. Feel now the weight of your body against the earth, this ancient soil composed of countless generations of stars that lived and died to create the very atoms that form your flesh. Place your hand upon your chest and feel the rhythm of your heart, a drum that has been beating in unbroken succession through billions of bodies, each one a temporary vessel for the same endless stream of consciousness that the Buddha saw flowing like a river without beginning or end. Can you sense it now? This deeper current that runs beneath the surface thoughts and everyday concerns. This is not metaphor or poetry, but the direct experience of your true nature, temporarily forgetting itself in the beautiful dream of being human. But what torments us in this age of constant stimulation and digital overwhelm is not knowing who we really are. We scroll through social media feeds seeking connection, yet feeling more isolated than ever before. We consume endless streams of information, yet feel starved for genuine wisdom. We accumulate possessions and achievements, yet experience a persistent emptiness that no external success can fill. This is the suffering of beings who have forgotten their luminous origin, who mistake themselves for the temporary waves rather than the eternal ocean. The Buddha taught that this forgetting is not accidental, but karmic, the natural result of countless lifetimes spent grasping at the illusion of separate selfhood. In the beginning, if we can call it that, there was no beginning at all. The Aggañña Sutta describes a time before time when the universe contracted into pure potential, when all beings existed in the Ābhāssara realm as self-luminous, mind-made entities who fed on joy itself and moved through space with the freedom of thoughts dancing in an open sky. Imagine beings so refined they cast no shadows because they were made of light, so subtle they needed no food because they were nourished by the very bliss of existence, so pure they knew no distinction between self and other because they had not yet fallen into the dream of separation. Yet even in that primordial paradise, the seeds of change were stirring. Feel the gentle tug of curiosity that arises in your chest now, the same innocent wonder that led those first beings to taste the sweet essence that appeared upon the waters of the newly forming world. This was not disobedience or sin, but the natural unfolding of consciousness exploring its own infinite creativity. With each taste of that honeyed substance, their radiant bodies grew denser, their luminous forms began to cast shadows, their perfect contentment gave way to the first stirrings of hunger, desire, and the illusion of need. Here is where we must pause and ask ourselves the question that shatters all comfortable assumptions. If we were once beings of pure light, who chose to descend into these heavy bodies and troubled minds, what does that make of our current struggles with depression, anxiety, and the crushing weight of modern existence? Are we not like gods who have forgotten how to fly, angels who have convinced ourselves we are merely animals, infinite consciousness that has talked itself into believing in limitation and death? The transformation was gradual, like the imperceptible shift from summer to autumn that we witness in the changing of leaves. As those primordial beings consumed more of the earth's essence, their bodies solidified, their genders differentiated, their minds developed the capacity for both creation and destruction. They began to hoard resources, to claim ownership of what had once been shared freely, to build walls between themselves and their neighbors. Sound familiar? This is not ancient history, but the eternal story playing out in every human heart, the fall from grace that happens not once, but in every moment we choose separation over unity, fear over love, grasping over letting go. The cool mountain air carries with it the memory of that first breath, when consciousness entered matter, when the infinite squeezed itself into finite form like ocean, trying to fit into a teacup. Breathe deeply now and feel the paradox of your existence. You are both the ocean and the teacup, the vastness and the vessel, the eternal awareness temporarily playing at being a person with a name and a social security number and opinions about the weather. Notice how even as you breathe, there is something in you that remains untouched by the coming and going of breath, unchanged by the rising and falling of thoughts, unmoved by the endless parade of experiences that march through consciousness like clouds across an empty sky. This is why the Buddha's teaching on human origins is not merely historical, but therapeutic, not just philosophical, but practical medicine for the soul sickness of our time. We suffer because we have forgotten our radiant nature, because we mistake ourselves for the costume rather than the actor, the wave rather than the ocean, the temporary expression rather than the eternal source. Every anxiety attack is homesickness for that primordial luminosity, every depression a grief for the pure joy we once knew as our natural state, every addiction an attempt to fill the God-shaped hole left by our forgetting. But here in this morning stillness, with the first rays of sunlight beginning to gild the mountain peaks like memories of our original radiance, we can remember, not as an intellectual exercise, but as a lived reality, not as a belief system, but as direct experience of what we have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and social programming and evolutionary survival instincts. The Buddha discovered that consciousness itself is beginningless, that the stream of awareness in which these words arise and pass away has been flowing since time immemorial through countless forms, countless worlds, countless expressions of the same fundamental awakeness. Consider this. Every cell in your body replaces itself completely every 7 years, yet something in you has remained constant since childhood. Every thought you think arises and dissolves back into emptiness, yet something in you observes all thoughts without being touched by any of them. Every emotion you experience comes and goes like weather across the landscape of your being, yet something in you remains as unchanging as the sky itself. This is not your brain or your personality or your memories, but the pure witness consciousness that the Buddha recognized as your true face, the face you had before your parents were born, the deathless awareness that was never born and will never die. The modern epidemic of meaninglessness stems from our disconnection from this deeper identity. We have been told we are merely sophisticated animals, accidental arrangements of atoms, biological machines programmed for survival and reproduction. Is it any wonder that rates of suicide and depression have skyrocketed in this materialist age? We are beings of infinite consciousness, trying to convince ourselves we are nothing more than meat robots, gods pretending to be prisoners, ocean waves insisting they are separate from the sea. This is the fundamental cognitive dissonance that creates what Buddha called dukkha, the deep unsatisfactoriness that no amount of pleasure or achievement or pharmaceutical intervention can ultimately heal. Feel the earth beneath you now. This ancient planet that has been humanity's home for such a brief moment in cosmic time. Yet according to the Buddha's teaching, this is not your first visit here. Your consciousness has worn countless bodies, lived countless lives, loved and lost and learned and forgotten, through eons of experience that stretch back beyond the formation of solar systems. The very atoms that compose your body have been part of stars and stones, plants and animals, other humans whose stories are lost to history, but whose essence lives on in the eternal recycling of matter and energy and consciousness through the grand mandala of existence. This is why déjà vu feels so familiar, why certain places call to us with inexplicable longing, why we sometimes meet strangers who feel like old friends. We are walking through a world that is simultaneously brand new and ancient beyond measure, encountering again and again the same eternal patterns, the same fundamental lessons, the same invitation to remember who we really are beneath the temporary costumes of personality and culture and historical circumstance. Every person you meet has been your mother in some previous existence. Every enemy was once your dearest friend. Every stranger carries within them the same luminous awareness that shines through your own eyes when you look deeply enough. But why? We must ask ourselves, with the courage of authentic spiritual inquiry, why do we keep forgetting? Why does consciousness continue to incarnate in forms that guarantee suffering, limitation, and death? Why not simply remain in the blissful Ābhāssara realm, where beings need no food, are cast no shadows, and know only joy? The answer, according to the deepest Buddhist teachings, is that consciousness itself is inherently creative, inherently exploratory, inherently curious about its own infinite potential. like an artist who cannot help but paint new paintings, even knowing that each one is impermanent, like a musician who continues to compose new songs, even though each note fades into silence. Consciousness continues to manifest new forms, because this is its essential nature, to know itself through endless experience, to explore its own boundless creativity through the dance of forgetting and remembering, losing and finding, dying and being reborn. And so we find ourselves here, in these human bodies with their exquisite sensitivity and heartbreaking vulnerability, equipped with nervous systems capable of experiencing everything from the most sublime states of cosmic consciousness to the most mundane pleasures of taste and touch and sexual intimacy. We are consciousness wearing the costume of humanity, infinite awareness playing hide and seek with itself, the eternal experimenting with the temporal, like a master actor completely absorbed in a role, while never losing the deeper knowing of who they really are backstage. Place your hand now over your heart and feel the steady rhythm that connects you to every human who has ever lived, every being who has ever drawn breath on this planet or any other world throughout the vast cosmos. This heartbeat is not yours alone, but the pulse of universal consciousness expressing itself through countless individual hearts. The same life force that beats in the chest of the saint and the sinner, the wise and the foolish, the happy and the sorrowful. In this recognition of fundamental unity lies the seed of compassion that Buddhism cultivates as the natural response to seeing through the illusion of separation. Yet even as we glimpse this profound truth, the mind immediately begins to doubt, to analyze, to create new concepts and categories that can become new forms of spiritual prison. This is why the Buddha emphasized direct experience over belief, meditation over philosophy, the gradual training of attention and awareness, rather than the accumulation of more spiritual ideas to fill the storage rooms of memory. The truth of our origins cannot be grasped by thought, but only realized through the systematic cultivation of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom that constitutes the Noble Eightfold Path. So we sit here in this eternal now, this timeless moment that contains all of history and all of future possibility, feeling the weight of flesh and the lightness of spirit, experiencing ourselves as both the temporary wave and the eternal ocean, both the individual story and the cosmic drama of consciousness exploring its own infinite nature. The morning sun rises over the mountains like awareness dawning in a mind that has long been asleep. And in this simple moment of presence, we touch again the luminous source from which we have never actually been separate. The great secret that the Buddha discovered, and that each of us must discover for ourselves, is that we are not seeking to become something we are not, but rather to remember what we have always been. We are not broken beings in need of fixing, but whole awareness playing at being broken. Infinite consciousness pretending to be limited, deathless spirit wearing the mask of mortality, like actors in the grand cosmic theater of existence. Every moment of awakening is not the acquisition of something new, but the recognition of something eternal. Not the achievement of an extraordinary state, but the acknowledgement of what is most ordinary and natural and always already here. And in this recognition, all questions about human origins resolve into the deepest laughter, the most profound joy, the most natural compassion for all beings who are playing this same game of forgetting and remembering, losing themselves and finding themselves again and again through the endless dance of existence. We are the children of light who chose to play in the darkness for a while, gods who decided to dream they were human, ocean waves who temporarily forgot they were the sea. This is not tragedy, but the greatest adventure story ever told, and we are both its authors and its protagonists, its audience and its stage, its beginning and its end, and its eternal middle that goes on and on, world without end, in the luminous play of consciousness, discovering itself through every possible form and every conceivable experience throughout the infinite cosmos of being.